Donald Trump relies on fear to push his authoritarian agenda. Not just fear of retribution for those who speak out, but fear among the public as a whole. He wants people scared of an enemy within. And in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting, that scapegoat has been trans people. Trump has tried to cover up the truth about the shooter's ideology by pushing that narrative. But that storyline just fell apart, thanks to none other than his own ally, Patel, who managed to expose Trump's lie and embarrass his boss in the process. We'll get into all of that. But first, if you're finding value in this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps support our work. Now, before we break down how Patel undercut Trump, let's start with what's happening in this moment. Trump exploiting Charlie Kirk's death. And as Pete Buttigieg recently explained, that tells us everything.
Secretary, I do want to get your response to some of what we've heard from the president. This from the Oval Office just this week. Take a look.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
What is your reaction to hearing that?
I want to be really clear about this. This is an example of something that is hurting. We're not getting the leadership that we need to bring this country together from the White House. And in order to turn the tide of political violence, yes, we have to reject those who commit political violence. Yes, we have to reject those who celebrate or promote political violence. But also, in order to deprive political violence of its power, we have to reject anyone who would try to exploit political violence. The response to this cannot be for the government to crack down on individuals or groups, not because of violence, but because they challenge the government politically. We need to have free and open political debate and a healthy political process in this country. And by the way, just like an overwhelming majority of Americans reject violence, an overwhelming majority of Americans, left, right, and center, believe that the government should not be cracking down on its political opponents because they are political opponents, not in the United States of America, not ever.
I wanted to start with Pete's point because it highlights exactly what's happening right now. The conservative movement is seizing every chance to demonize trans people. Day after day, Fox hosts talk about war, even suggesting cruelty toward the homeless, while Republicans echo the same rhetoric. And yet, Democrats are told not just to lower the temperature, but to stay silent. This isn't about lowering rhetoric. It's about silencing criticism of the fear and violence the right is fueling. Trump has made trans people his new target because his immigration fear-mongering isn't landing with voters. That's why we've seen him pivot, and why Republicans are lining up behind him. Just look at the governor of Utah defending Trump's latest attacks on Democrats.
Governor, just lastly, you immediately talked about Democrats who had already been targeted. President Trump said nothing about the political violence against Democrats. In fact, he blamed the radical left. What's your reaction to that? Is that something you think he should be doing?
Well, look, President Trump is very angry, and Charlie is his close personal friend. There is a lot of anger on the right, on my side of the aisle, and I've certainly felt that. And in this case, it does appear that that's true. Again, more information is coming, and we'll learn more over time. You know, I don't know that matters as much as the radicalization piece. I brought up the Democrats who were assassinated recently, and how quickly we move on from these things. But the body count is piling up, and so I'm so concerned about this radicalization piece, and that's what we're trying to understand. Again, this person made a choice, and it was this person's choice, and this person will be held responsible, and we have to make different choices.
Oh, Donald Trump he's very hurt and angry right now because his best friend in the world, Charlie Kirk, who he didn't even think twice about before he started talking about his ballroom is gone. Oh, we have a grieving president. He's so sad. He's not mourning. He's exploiting. That's what's happening right now, in the fact that the governor of Utah being hailed as this hero right now for, bringing us all together and saying this is a moment for unity won't contend with the fact that Donald Trump is completely attacking Democrats and Democrats only. He won't call that out. He won't say anything. Just shows he is equally complicit in this project of attacking trans people. That is what it is about. It is about expanding Donald Trump's authoritarian powers by scaring people and saying that trans people are coming for your rights. It makes no sense, but it was very clear that this is what they're trying to do, and Patel gave away the game. Today, Patel tweeted, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin lived with transgender partner who is now cooperating with the FBI. The article that Patel tweeted continues, Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, was living with a transgender partner who was in the process of transitioning from male to female. That individual, who is yet to be identified by the authorities, is now fully cooperating with the FBI on its investigation. Text messages and other communications that the transgender individual traded with Robinson, 22, helped the feds nab the accused assassin. The article states that those texts, according to law enforcement, helped them track down the assailant. But yesterday, Patel tweeted that Robinson's father was the one who turned him into authorities. So, let's try to follow the spinning of this story. When Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin was initially arrested, reports first indicated that the suspect's own father alerted authorities. That was described as the first tip the FBI received, the confirmation they needed. Officials had no prior information, and even the governor of Utah said investigators knew nothing before that moment. But now, according to Patel, the story has shifted. He claims the FBI was tipped off by text messages between the alleged shooter and someone the media is reporting, though not confirmed, could have been their partner, with speculation that this person may be transitioning. Again, we do not know that for sure. What we do know is that the alleged shooter's roommate told reporters they knew nothing, are cooperating with investigators, and had no reason to believe their roommate would target Charlie Kirk. So let's trace this. First, the father turns him in. Then the FBI says they knew nothing. Now we're told the FBI actually knew everything because of text messages between the suspect and a potentially trans roommate or partner. That sudden shift is what some MAGA voices are using as justification to launch a political attack on trans people. It doesn't add up. What seems clear is an effort to create a connection between this shooting and trans communities, a link that investigators can't seem to establish. Instead of focusing on the online spaces where radicalization often happens, subreddits, Discord servers, or other forums, the probe is reportedly looking for ties to so-called trans groups. Meanwhile, the suspect's own grandmother said, "I don't know a single Democrat. Our entire family is MAGA." Those were her words. Yet the narrative is being redirected, as if the FBI is saying, no, this wasn't about politics. It was really about texts with a trans partner. But that wasn't mentioned at the press conference, so why introduce it later? It looks like an attempt to reshape the public story. And if the earlier reports are true, that the alleged assailant was in a relationship with someone who is transitioning and that person is cooperating with authorities, then why target trans people at all? The one trans person mentioned in this case, if that detail is accurate, is reportedly helping the investigation. There's no evidence they discussed Charlie Kirk. No messages suggesting they knew of any plan. If such texts existed, they likely would have been released already. So how does it make sense that Patel is reframing the capture of the suspect in a way that inserts an attack on a trans person while presenting the FBI as though it handled this seamlessly, when earlier accounts show otherwise? Instead, it appears the real facts of the case are being buried under conspiracy and prejudice. This looks less like truth-seeking and more like narrative spinning to distract from the deeper issue. America's epidemic of gun violence, fueled by inflammatory political rhetoric. That environment of hate and provocation is what sets the stage for tragedies like this, not the simple existence of trans people. The pattern is clear. Certain figures are looking for an excuse to scapegoat a marginalized community. They've essentially revealed the strategy, almost admitting it outright. As others have pointed out, even Stephen Miller has echoed that agenda.
The Democrat Party, its pundits, its allies, the educators, for 10 years have waged a campaign of eliminationist rhetoric against President Trump, against Republicans, against MAGA, against Trump officials. It has been willful and deliberate, Sean. The rhetoric that you played, the messages that you played in that clip are the same exact rhetoric and messages that are used by the assassins, that are used by the two assassins who tried to kill Donald Trump, that are used by the assassin who claimed the life of my friend, an American hero, Charlie Kirk. This is willful and deliberate radicalization. They know what they're doing. Our universities, in many cases, have become incubators for extremism. They become the equivalent of madrasas for jihadism. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. When you see these organized doxing campaigns, where the left calls people enemies of the Republic, calls them fascists, says they're Nazis, says they're evil, says they have to be removed, and then prints their addresses, what do you think they're trying to do? They are trying to inspire someone to murder them. That is their objective. That is their intent. And when you see online, Sean, as we've seen for the last few days, tape after tape after tape of federal workers, bureaucrats, staffers in the Pentagon, educators, professors, healthcare workers, nurses, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. And let me tell you something I've not shared with anybody.
What more evidence do we need? None. It's clear what they're after. A scapegoat. They want someone to blame, someone they can attack, someone they can point to as the problem. They are desperate to connect this tragedy to a person of color, a trans person, or any marginalized group, so they can frame it as left-wing ideology or say it's about so-called college indoctrination. But let's be honest, the right isn't mourning Charlie Kirk. They're exploiting his death to push division, to escalate political violence, and to intimidate others. And we cannot be intimidated. We have to see through the lies and keep calling out the truth. That's what we're committed to doing here. So if you want to support this work, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.